Alright, welcome everybody to the fourth video of my ITIL Foundation training. It's a series of 25 videos and we're now in video number 4. The first 3 videos talked about the concept, definition of ITIL terminology and a high-level introduction of what ITIL is. We're now going to talk about the 5 life cycle phases of ITIL, and everything we talked about in this video is going to be very crucial and important for you to remember. So please pay attention over the next 6 to 8 minutes. All right, so there are 5 life cycle phases in ITIL. It starts with the service strategy phase, and as you can imagine, everything starts with a strategy. And then we get into the service design phase, and then where we design the service, and then we get into the service transition phase, and in this phase we execute on our design, on our plans. And then from service transition phase we move into the service operation phase, where the service is now in operation, and everything we talk about in service operation phase relates to how do we keep the service operational and keep it operating at an optimum performance level. The last and the 5th life cycle phase in ITIL is called continual service improvement, or CSI. Now CSI is a continuous improvement phase where we look at the processes, we look at the service and identify areas that can be improved. It is a continuous process, as the name implies, so you're really looking to improve your service from the perspective of customer value and how we are delivering the services, and also from the perspective of process improvements throughout the life cycle. All right, let's jump into the first life cycle phase, which is called service strategy. Okay, so service strategy really talks about the overall strategic planning of the IT service. How does it work in the overall strategic plans for your business? This is something that perhaps would be done by the strategy team in your company, or folks that are responsible for coming up with the strategy of the overall company. The service strategy phase also talks about the financial planning and definition of value to the customer. So those are some of the things that you talk about and you look at in the service strategy phase. From a business value perspective, there is more alignment to the business needs and demands. It must demonstrate return on investment, of course. That is super critical, and that's why financial planning is part of service strategy. And better understanding of business and IT capabilities and resources. So those are the things that are looked at in the service strategy phase. Let's move to the next phase of ITIL life cycle, which is called service design. And as the name implies, it concerns the design and development of services, service management, and related processes. It typically begins when a customer requests a new or a changed service. From a business value perspective for this life cycle phase, there is reduced total cost of ownership, there is improved service quality, smoother service implementations, increased service alignment, and more effective service performance. Those are the aspects that you are looking at in the service design phase. The next phase is called service transition. So this is the phase that utilizes various processes, systems, and functions, and it builds, tests, and deploys the service before going live. So this is where the actual execution happens. The service transition phase, once again, is where the actual execution happens. So if I was naming this life cycle phase, I would have probably named it as service implementation or service execution or something like that. But anyways, ITIL defines it as service transition. It bridges the gap between service design and service operation. So before a service goes live, and you're now worried about maintaining the service and keeping the service running at an optimum performance level, the service transition phase is where all of the execution takes place. From a business value perspective, there's improved deployment of services. Naturally, you are talking about making sure that the service that gets deployed correctly. There's more efficiency in handling changes because change management, or when a service requires a major change or an overhaul, for example, you want to make sure that we handle it efficiently. There's less disruption of service because when you are making a change in a service, you want to ensure that during the service transition phase, there is no disruption to the existing service as you bring about improvements in the service. And increased accountability for resources and assets. Those are some of the business value of this life cycle phase. The next phase is called service operations. So everything to do with the operation of a service, which means the service is live in this phase. So this phase is where the service is first made available to customers, or if it's a change in a service, then the change is made available to the customers. It has its own processes and functions to provide the service at the agreed upon level. So in the service operation phase, you are ensuring that the agreed service levels are being met. From a business value perspective, we're ensuring improved service delivery, reduced in unplanned business and IT costs and resources usage, reduction in service failures. Of course, you want to ensure that when incidents happen, you can react very quickly and restore the service back to normal. And increased access to standard services. So this life cycle phase ensures that the availability for the end user community is kept at the highest possible levels. The next phase, which is the last phase of ITIL, is called continual service improvement. And as the name implies, it can be applied anywhere in the life cycle. So you're really looking at all the previous 4 life cycle phases and looking for ways to improve. It uses measurements to identify strengths and weaknesses, so that's really important. What KPIs to measure? KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators. What KPIs to measure in order to identify strengths and weaknesses? What KPIs are not able to meet the threshold is what you're looking at. Is continual, iterative work. It happens all the time in the background, and it is focused on making improvements throughout the service life cycle. From a business value perspective, there's better ability to handle and initiate improvements. There is increased alignment between IT and business needs, and enhanced awareness of service inefficiencies and ineffectiveness, because you're always looking for things that can be improved. So that's your life cycle, the 5th life cycle phase. And with that, we come to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.